Hello everyone, today is 13th of August, now it's 20 past 11 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, and I'll start with a report from Vzгляд newspaper that so-called president of Ukraine, Zelensky, admitted first time that it is Ukraine's armed forces that are conducting invasion of the Russian Federation borderline areas of the Kursk region. For whatever reason, until now, high-ranking so-called officials in Ukraine refused to confirm this information. Probably they were waiting for initial results of this invasion before they will admit involvement of the Kiev regime troops in this. And if you remember, I said straight away once Kiev regime troops cross the border in the Kursk region that most likely there will be no more talks about peace between Moscow and Kiev, and seems like this is exactly the direction that we are heading. Probably from now on Moscow will settle only for unconditional surrender of their Kiev regime. And we have a report here from RT that no talks will be held with Kiev after attacks on civilians, according to Russian president. So any peace talks with Ukraine are impossible as long as it conducts strikes on civilian populations and threatens nuclear power plants, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said. Speaking at the meeting with the senior officials on Monday, Putin addressed Ukraine's recent incursion into the border regions of Kursk, as well as drone strike that damaged Russia's Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. He suggested that Ukraine's most recent actions show clearly why it has refused to revisit plans to settle the conflict based on either on Russian proposal or roadmaps presented by neutral parties. And then, quote, apparently the enemy, relying on the help of its Western masters, is striving to improve its negotiating positions in the future. But how can we talk about negotiations with those who conduct indiscriminate strikes on civilians, civilian infrastructure, or try to threaten nuclear energy facilities? Well, question is legit. That was highlighted by Russian president, and we clearly can see attitude of Russian leadership in these statements here that there can be no negotiations with the terrorists. So Putin went on to say that one of the Kiev's main goals in Kursk is to divert attention from Donbass, where Russian forces have been steadily gaining ground in recent months. But what are the results? Putin asked. The pace of offensive operations not only have not slowed down, but on the contrary, increased by 1.5 times, which is, well, I don't know about 1.5 times or 2 times, but it is obvious that Russian armed forces continue their offensive operations. Progress continues on the line of contact, and every other day, literally every other day, we are receiving information that this settlement was liberated or that on many different sectors of the front line, and today is no exception, for example, and Russian troops, and later on I will share with you information that Russian troops have established control over yet another settlement on Avdiivka sector of the front line. But let's continue with this news first. So by striking into Kursk region, Ukraine also sought to undermine the morale of the Russian population, but also achieved the contrary results, Putin said, noting an increased stream of volunteers to join the military and defend border, which is also factual. If we already know that before this incursion, about 1,500 citizens were joining, Russian citizens were joining ranks of armed forces. Now this number most likely is doubled. In next couple of days, probably we will learn more detailed information about increase in volunteers joining their army. Moscow's main goal is at this stage is to drive back the Ukrainian forces from Russian territory. The enemy will receive a worthy response All of our goals will undoubtedly be achieved, a Russian president stated, and also according to Russian militaries, by the way, since the beginning of this incursion, Kiev regime already lost about 1,600 troops and about 200 armored vehicles, which is quite a significant number. And well, on my Telegram, I shared yesterday and days before quite number of videos when these invasion forces of Kiev regime have been decimated. For example, you can see here a column of Kiev regime is moving in the Kursk region, then Russian strike, and nothing is left from this group of terrorists. That's consequences of the strikes, Russian strikes on the enemy. And there are plenty of other videos, by the way, you can check if you want to. In this case, for example, Russian BTRs ambushed yet another column of Kiev regime forces, Ukrainian terrorists, and Russian BTR ATAs basically in a close range, from a close range, neutralize this armored group of terrorists that were operating on strikers, US-made Striker infantry fighting vehicles. Seems like automatic cannon of BTR-80 is enough to basically shred this Striker infantry fighting vehicles. Another video, Ukrainian terrorists are trying to move somewhere, and then that's it. They went straight to other world. Also videos, by the way, Kiev regime forces are trying to do something, and well, they also went to other world. Another video, and plenty of those videos, by the way. Even Ukrainian channels on Telegram are now questioning this incursion operation of the Kiev regime, because according to even Ukrainian channels, Russian armed forces are like on safari. They are exterminating these invading armored groups of Kiev regime one by one in scores every single day. So, I mean, if you want to, you can check on my Telegram, by the way, these videos. And today, I believe there will be plenty more. And when it comes to force that Russia is using to neutralize these invading terrorists, well, at this point, nothing gonna surprise me, of course. And I definitely would not be surprised if Russian side will wait for another couple of days to make sure that concentration of Kiev regime's forces in this salient in the Kursk region is high enough. And then if, as I said, I would not be surprised if at that point Russian side will deploy some extreme force, let's say tactical nuclear weapons, because people, civilians, have been evacuated from the area. Everything was done on part of Russian side to evacuate civilians. Although unfortunately, fate of 2,000 residents of this territory that is occupied by Ukrainian terrorists is unknown, according to current head of Kursk region. He was also presented yesterday during this meeting of Russian president with high-ranking officials, and current leader of Kursk region, Alexei Smirnov, said that about 28 settlements are controlled by Ukrainian terrorists at this point. This salient that they are occupying is 40 kilometers wide and about 12 kilometers deep. Fate of 2,000 civilians on occupied territory is unknown, and unfortunately it is highly likely that many of those civilians probably were killed by Ukrainian terrorists, because we all see videos. There's plenty of videos on the internet when Ukrainian terrorists indiscriminately killing civilians, opening fire on on civilians that are trying to escape from area of hostilities. Although it is possible that some of those people from these 2000 hopefully managed to escape and were unable yet to contact the authorities to let them know that they are safe. But well, as time goes by, possibility that hundreds of Russian civilians were killed by Ukrainian terrorists is definitely increasing. Also, by the way, Alexei Smirnov said that about 121,000 civilians were evacuated from borderline areas of the region, and there are another 59,000 civilians are expected to be evacuated from their settlements that are nearby of this salient that is occupied by Kiev regime. Well, of course, significant information from governor of the Kursk region, and unfortunately, most devastating is, of course, the fate of 2,000 people that are unknown at this point. Hopefully, significant number from these 2,000 managed to escape, but it is highly likely that many civilians were killed by Ukrainian terrorists. Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that according to aide of head of DPR, Yan Gagin, in this incursion operation into Russian territory, Ukrainian next to Ukrainian terrorists are fighting terrorists from Poland, France, and US, and Gagin did not exclude the possibility that NATO instructors, NATO personnel is also involved in this incursion. Probably Russian side has some radio, some interceptions of the radio communication, and their Gagin statements based on that. Probably they hear French language, English language, and Polish language, and of course, as I said many times in previous updates, high number of foreign mercenaries are involved in this conflict. It's a video documented. It's there video files of that are circulating on internet, and most likely significant number of those mercenaries really are the so-called instructors of their NATO. It only takes, it's only a matter of time, I believe, and at least number of those mercenaries will end up in Russian captivity, and probably we will see videos of interrogations and what they have to say. Who are they? Members of their NATO military or mercenaries that went to Ukraine just for the money? Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that US Senator urges NATO pilots to fight for Ukraine. So US Senator Lindsey Graham has called on Western pilots to come and fight for freedom in Ukraine until Kiev can train its own airmen. I mean, how ironic it is, isn't it? That word freedom is used next to Ukraine. It's total nonsense, man. There is no freedom in Ukraine, and no one has any rights in Ukraine. We all see these dozens and dozens of videos, how people being kidnapped on the streets and forcefully mobilized and sent to the front line to die for a Western geopolitical agenda. There is no independent media in Ukraine. There is no political opposition. Basically, everything is controlled, and very few of these so-called political figures in Ukraine are there to criticize Zelensky and his actions, and only those that have some backing from the West. Otherwise, literally no politician in Ukraine that has no backing or close connection to the Western elites is there to say even a single word, by the way, about actions of Zelensky and his criminal associates. And this despicable individual, Lindsey Graham, is using word freedom next to Ukraine. I mean, unbelievable, man. What can I say? Western ruling class is disgrace of humanity for sure, and unfortunately existential threat for humanity. The analyst is reporting, and by the way, when it comes to this call of Graham for Western pilots to fight for key regime, for geopolitical agenda of the Western ruling class, this is not really surprising. We all know from very beginning that most likely F-16s will be operated by Western pilots, NATO pilots, and those planes will be maintained by Western specialists, NATO specialists, and now we are seeing just attempt from Western ruling class to generate this plausible deniability point for themselves, because of course it's only a matter of time and those F-16s will be intercepted by Russian forces, and some NATO pilots may end up in Russian hands, in Russian captivity. And well, by making such statements, Graham and others are just creating this plausible deniability, so that if a US pilot is captured, then Washington will say, or Pentagon will say, that it's a mercenary. It's a mercenary, not current member of the US Air Force, for example. That's what is going. That's what is being done, by the way, by with such statements, because there is no way anybody in this world, by the way, can learn how to fly on absolutely unknown plane and to operate as a profi for in 3, 6, 10 or 12 months. It's just not happening, man. It takes years of training. But anyways, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that in the Kursk region, quite a number of Ukrainian terrorists have been captured. Some may be surprised that Russian forces are taking prisoner those terrorists, but yet again, until Moscow designates Ukraine's armed forces or main intelligence directorate of Ukraine or SBU of Ukraine as a terrorist organizations, Russian armed forces have to act according to Geneva Convention in regards to this terrorists, in reality terrorists, even if they are not designated officially as such. And therefore, if these terrorists are surrendering, if members of Ukraine's so-called armed forces surrendering, then Russian troops, if it's safe, then Russian troops have to take them prisoner. And me personally, I believe this is a mistake, by the way, on part of Moscow, because it is obvious. Putin himself is saying directly that Kiev regime is targeting civilians indiscriminately. Kiev regime's forces are targeting civilian infrastructure, including nuclear infrastructure, which is terrorism, by the way, which is terrorism, and designate then Ukraine's armed forces as a terrorist organization, main intelligence directorate as a terrorist organization, or SBU, or Kiev regime itself. Just designate them as a terrorist organizations. That will make much easier for Russian armed forces and security services to deal with these terrorists in much more efficient way. But I guess Russian president and his inner circle, they are not designating those Ukrainian formations or groups as a terrorist because they want someone. I mean, yet again, how you can call any institution in Ukraine as a legit one, it's beyond my understanding, man. But theoretically speaking, probably Moscow wants to be someone legit to sign a capitulation, and that's why this designation has not yet happened. But I believe this is a mistake, man. I truly believe Moscow is making mistake by not designating terrorist organizations as such, as a terrorist organizations, because that's what they are, and this is factual, right? So anyways, big number of Ukrainian terrorists have been taken prisoner. RT is also reporting that There was an article in Financial Times even, with acknowledgement that Ukraine is taking heavy losses in a Kursk region as a result of this incursion. So Ukrainian troops that invaded Russian Kursk region have taken heavy losses in men and Western provided vehicles, military equipment. The Financial Times has reported the attack that began last Tuesday involved the units drawn from 6 Ukrainian frontline brigades. Soldiers, they are not soldiers, they are terrorists, told the outlet. Or they also claim to have caught the Russians by surprise, but quickly came under fire from drones and FAB glide bombs. Russians estimate of over 1,600 Ukrainians killed, Ukrainian terrorists killed, which is impossible to verify according to Financial Times. And they think this number is exaggerated. I don't think so. But Financial Times, being a Western propaganda outlet, can write, of course, anything they want. But it is a little surprising that major Western media outlets are beginning to acknowledge that this Kursk invasion is becoming very costly for a terrorist state under the name of Ukraine and the terrorist regime there. Vedomosti is also reporting that Belarus is increasing deployment or speeding the deployment of its armed forces towards Ukrainian border. President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, ordered Belarus's militaries and the security services to increase their presence on the borderline to increase protection or security. And nowadays speculations are spreading on the internet that we might see opening of another front from towards Kiev regime. So basically, rumors are that it's not just Belarusian armed forces are getting closer or redeployed towards border with Ukraine, but Russian troops that are deployed into Belarus. And some channels, some military experts are not ruling out possibility that in relatively short time we will see opening of the new front towards Kiev. Anything is possible, obviously, especially now when Kiev regime redeployed their brigades from border with Belarus to conduct this incursion into the Kursk region. And right now, according to reports, Kiev regime has mainly territorial defense brigades on the Belarusian border, and territorial defense brigades, they're not really much capable formations. Everybody knows that. So let's see what is going to happen. But me personally, as I said, nothing gonna surprise me. Not the opening of the new front towards Kiev itself, not Russian offensive operations in Chernihiv for a region, for example, and not even probability that once Kiev regime's forces concentration in this Saliansk Kursk region will reach certain level, not even, I would not be surprised even if Russia will start using against this high concentration of Kiev regime's forces some tactical nukes. Not to risk the lives of their Russian military personnel, and theoretically it is possible, yes, to make sure that all the civilians that can be evacuated are evacuated, and then 3, 4, 5 tactical nukes can obliterate Kiev regime's constant forces in this salient in a second. So now Russian militaries have to risk their lives to deal with them. Although let's see what will happen, by the way. Nothing will surprise me for sure, but let's see how will things develop. Next news from RIA Novosti that London denies claims of the Kiev that they received permission from United Kingdom to use the Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles to strike deep inside Russian territory, including in the Kursk region. Well, we will see. We will see. Yesterday, many sources reported that London authorized strikes deep inside the Russian territory with Storm Shadows, and we all know these missiles are prepared for launches by British military personnel, right? And British intelligence officers. Targeting data and everything is done by British militaries. I mean, we will see. We will see if Storm Shadows will be used to strike deep inside Russian territory. I remember perfectly well that some time ago, British ambassador was summoned by Russian Foreign Ministry, and some strong warnings were given. And if I wonder what Moscow will do if Storm Shadows will start targeting Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, for example. Sorry, Kursk nuclear, Zaporozhye nuclear power plant also, but also Kursk nuclear power plant, for example, because right now we are talking about Kursk region. But yet again, officially, seems like London is denying that permission was given to use Storm Shadows to strike deep inside the Russian territory, including in the Kursk region. This was reported by Telegraph, I believe. Yes, Telegraph, British propaganda outlet. RIA Novosti is also reporting that according to Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, Washington is preparing campaign to discredit Zelensky because they want to remove him from their office, and a number of candidates have been discussed now who will replace Zelensky. Okay, we hear this information from Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. Let's see if they are correct. There is no way to confirm or deny this report, isn't it? And by being a state intelligence institution, they probably know better. RIA Novosti is reporting also that in Belgorod region, entry to Krasno-Rouge region district is prohibited now, and when preparations being done in the Belgorod region also to neutralize possible incursion of the Kiev regime forces in the Belgorod region direction. And there are rumors, by the way, there clearly are rumors that are circulating on the internet that Kiev regime might start another incursion into Russian territory in Belgorod region to somehow ease the pressure on its forces in the Kursk salient. Well, this map is not working properly, it seems like. But anyways, some preparations is underway in the Belgorod region to be ready for possible incursion of the Ukrainian terrorists. TASS news agency is also reporting that Russian armed forces established control over the settlement of Lysychna in the DPR. And as I said, by the way, progress of Russian forces on line of contact continues, even though its strategical or active defense strategy is deployed on the battlefield, which is about demilitarizing Kiev regime forces. First, it's not about gaining control over as much territory as possible. Priority is demilitarization, but still in many directions, Kiev regime's forces are unable to hold on to their defense lines, are collapsing basically, and in that case, of course, Russian troops have no option but to move forward and continue demilitarization of their enemy forces. And this is, by the way, settlement of Lysychna should be. I mean, what is wrong with this map, man? Let me open it again. Maybe notebooks operational memories overload. Well, I'm a bit surprised that this notebook is still working, so no complaints, man. Okay, I mean, I cannot open the map, as you can see. So yes, reports are that Lisichna in DPR have been liberated. This is Avdiivka sector of the front line, dear friends. And before I continue, let me... Oh, I was recording through VPN, that's why. Now it should work a little better, right? Okay. I forgot to turn off VPN, by the way. And this is Lisichna settlement. This is Avdiivka sector of the front line, as you can see. And every other day reports are coming in about liberation of these settlements. And now, before I continue, let me mention, if I may, that this small media project of mine with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram is completely subscriber funded, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with donation through PayPal or Boosty platform. This is the Boosty, by the way, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. I will just notice that monthly subscription on my Patreon starts from $5. So okay, all the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Let's continue with the Vzglyad newspaper's report that President of Palestine Mahmoud Abbas is in Moscow now, arrived in Moscow, and most likely today he will have talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. During the day, probably we will receive some more information about topics that are obvious, I will say, topics that most likely will be discussed during these negotiations. Maybe some decisions will be made. Let's see. Of course, I will share additional information about it on my Telegram channel and the next updates. RIA Novosti is also reporting that newly elected president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, during the phone call with the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, stated that Iran has every right for a retaliatory strike on for aggression that was committed against Iran by Israel. And according to Pezeshkian, Iran is determined to preserve its right on retaliation, despite all the pressure, all the diplomatic pressure that Iran's leadership is experiencing nowadays, because I guess just about everybody is calling into Tehran and trying to and asking Iran's leadership not to retaliate with maybe not to retaliate for assassination of Hamas leader in Tehran, recent assassination, or if retaliation is inevitable, then to do it with restraint. But yet again, Pezeshkian is saying that despite this diplomatic pressure, Iran, in principle, states that it has every right to retaliate, and no one should challenge this right. And they have a right, by the way. I mean, they were targeted and they have a right to retaliate. I mean, no questions. But I spoke about this topic many times before, and I said that friendly nations to Iran will most likely also try to call Tehran not to escalate in extreme terms, and not to give Western ruling class and Netanyahu's government additional ground for provoking regional war, which is definitely not in the interests of the regional countries and the world. Regional war in the Middle East is only in interests of Netanyahu's regime and the Western ruling class. And I explained many times before my reading of of big picture and why I think that Western ruling class is so determined to provoke regional war there. TASS news agency is reporting also that Yemeni Ansar Allah movement, or Houthi rebels as they are also known worldwide, conducted yet another strike on a commercial vessel not far away from Hadeidah port of Yemen. Details are not yet known for this moment, but yet again this crisis, Aden, this Red Sea crisis basically continues. Kommersant newspaper is also reporting that well, Trump had an interview with Musk, isn't it? It was an interview on Twitter X. I had no time to watch that interview, although on my Telegram, by the way, I shared from RT, I shared this post. It should be full interview, full conversation. It's a little more than, it's 2 hours basically. So if you want to, you can check it out. If you have not listened to it later on, I will definitely try to find the time to listen to this conversation. But according to Kommersant newspaper, during this conversation, Trump expressed hope that if he is elected as a president of US, he will have a good working relationships with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Okay, on the level of statements, one may assume that if Trump is elected, then the new administration may really try to de-escalate with Russia, but I'm a bit skeptical. I have to say I'm a bit skeptical because even if Trump will want to de-escalate personally, we'll see during the Biden's administration that decision-making process is not really depends on real policies of US. Let's say not really depends on president, because hardly anyone will argue that Biden was not making no decisions at all about any strategical point. No one probably will even try to explain to him anything because he would not understand. He barely recognized himself in a mirror, for God's sake. So therefore, even if Trump genuinely wants to de-escalate with Russia, to establish working relationships with Putin, still, by the way, he may not be able to do so, because during his first term in office, we all see, isn't it, big escalation between Russia and US. Trump was a president at the time when US started this next level of escalation with Russia. So very much same might happen in his second term also, if he is elected. And therefore, I don't really pay much attention to just the statements. Actions will speak volumes. So let's see if Trump is elected. Let's see if he and his inner circle, his administration, will really work on de-escalating with Moscow. We will find out. But I'm a bit skeptical that deep state, these multinational corporations, military-industrial complex, intelligence community will allow Trump to work on ideas that he has or projects that he has. Let's see. RT is also reporting that EU threatens Elon Musk over Trump interview, and this is a garden, isn't it? It was Borrell that said. It was Borrell or whom that said that Europe is a garden, and the rest of the world is. He was meaning maybe collective West. That is a garden, and the rest of the world is. I don't know. So in this garden, by the way, European Commissioner Terry Breton has ordered X owner Elon Musk to step up censorship of harmful content related to his upcoming interview with the former US President Donald Trump. This information is from yesterday, by the way. So this Elon Musk was threatened before interview actually took place. And if Elon Musk will not censor interview, if Elon Musk will not downgrade their access to interview, then a European Commissioner threatened him with their consequences. So, and there was reports, by the way, that live stream was accessible for a very short, relatively small number of people. It's 7 million or something. I can't remember now the exact number, but not for everybody. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I had no time to pay too much attention to these nuances. But I believe Elon Musk himself tried to explain that Twitter X is under DDoS attacks and stuff like that, and therefore relatively small number of people will have access for a live stream during the live stream. Something like that is happening. So maybe this threat has worked on Elon Musk, and he come up with this idea that platform is under DDoS attack and not everyone can access the live stream or something. I don't know. But information itself is quite telling, isn't it? That EU, by the way, that is, and EU officials that are love to talk about freedom of speech and human rights and all of it, are threatening owner of their social network to censor, or else. And that's the real face. That's the real face of Western ruling class, by the way. RIA Novosti is also reporting that according to Scott Ritter, FBI was conducting surveillance on him for years, and he said this during his conversation with Judge Napolitano on channel of Judge Napolitano, Judging Freedom. And I'm not surprised at all. Recently we learned that Tulsi Gabbard is under surveillance. Scott Ritter was under surveillance for years. I guess Colonel Douglas McGregor is under surveillance. Daniel Davis, also colonel that has its own channel under surveillance, and just about everybody, by the way. Everybody in US that is strong enough to oppose crazy policies of Biden's administration, neocons, all of them are probably under surveillance, with no exceptions. And of course, intelligence, the deep state will try to justify this by claiming that it's a security issue, but in reality, of course, this is an attempt to keep public in US in dark. That's what it is. They want people in US majority to be controlled by to be under heavy influence of official propaganda, and therefore they're going to target everybody from independent media, everybody from public life that opposes deep state and their crazy policies. Also interesting news, and I will end this update on this information, that, according to ruling party in Georgia, Georgian Dream, former president of Georgia, Mikhail Saakashvili, provoked 2008 military conflict with Russia, not because of his mental illness, but because of orders that he received from outside of Georgia. And you know what, I have already translated this, and let's read it. So former Georgian president Mikhail Saakashvili, as a result of external instructions, resorted to adventurous actions in August 2008, which resulted in war. This is stated in a statement by the political council of the ruling party in Georgia, Georgian Dream, Democratic Georgia. The majority of Georgian society rightly doubts Saakashvili's adequacy. However, the fact is that in August 2008, Saakashvili's adventurous actions were not the result of his mental instability, but the result of external instructions and a well-planned betrayal, according to Georgian Dream. And well, I absolutely agree with these statements. I personally experience quite significant difficulties, by the way, because of my confrontation with Saakashvili's regime exactly during and after August conflict. It was very obvious to me straight away that Saakashvili's regime was acting under orders of US political leadership, Pentagon, CIA, and it was clear to me that Saakashvili initiated or reignited civil war in South Ossetia and then provoked conflict with Russia under orders from the Washington. It was just too obvious to me personally. All the data was pointing out on that, and I mean, so many years passed since then, and it is somewhat you know what, so many years passed, and only now, by the way, this realization is happening in Georgia. Many people probably already knew, already realized that, but on official scale, on official level, only now we are hearing this obvious information. And I remind you, dear friends, if you don't know, that on 7th of August 2008, Saakashvili ordered Georgian forces to open fire on South Ossetia. And that's how civil war was reignited in Georgia. First phase of this conflict was a civil war. And on 8th of August, when Saakashvili's regime see that Russia is not getting involved in this conflict, they start, Saakashvili and his criminal associates ordered fire to be opened on Russian peacekeepers. Because it is obvious that after that, Moscow would not be able to stay out of this conflict. And well, once Russian peacekeepers were targeted, and many Russian peacekeepers that were in a region under UN mandate, by the way, after number of Russian peacekeepers were killed, Moscow get involved in this conflict, which ended in 4 or 5 days, really. It didn't take long before Saakashvili capitulated. But, well, unfortunately, Saakashvili managed to fulfill whatever order was he given. And of course, order was to provoke conflict with Russia, so that Western ruling class will receive a possibility to start active phase of current geopolitical developments with demonizing Russia. And that's what happened, by the way. Many members of our community probably remember that active demonization of Russia has started exactly from 2008, right? That was our first stage of this geopolitical game that Western ruling class is waging. And Ukrainian crisis is definitely part of that geopolitical game, 100%. So yes, Georgian government, Georgian ruling party is finally acknowledging openly that yes, it was a Saakashvili's regime that provoked this conflict, and Saakashvili's regime was acting under orders from outside of country. And I believe it will be helpful if Georgian leadership will name the country. If Georgian leadership will name the country, US, that sacrificed Georgia and Georgian citizens in 2008. And it will be even better if Georgian ruling party will name the names of US officials that were involved in this crime that was committed against Georgia and against Russia. Anyways, this is it for now, by the way. relatively long update, but hopefully you will find it informative and interesting, useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can try and influence the algorithm. And for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends on in real life or on internet, on the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you like my work and want to support, you can do it with donations through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Have a great day and take care. Bye for now.